Hi, Andrea. Hi, guys. Andrea, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, that's great. Andrea, you probably want to turn your camera on.
It says I can't start the video because the host has stopped it.
Okay, let me see what I can do. Uh, I, okay. Can you try it now?
Yeah, there we
That's
go.
great. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a ton for joining us, Andrea.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've got a lot of attendees coming in. I think we can start off.
Okay.
Just let me start off by sharing my screen. Give me 1 second. Andrea, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. So, guys, thanks a lot for coming here today. We really appreciate you taking time off on a weekday to be with us. Now, we've been doing the webinar series for about the past 4 or 5 months, but this one's a special one for us. It's mainly because we are here to speak about a very important topic. Andrea is going to speak about overcoming fear of failure and rejection. But there's another thing that we want to address is women in sales and how underrepresented they are. So, and at Vtiger, we believe in diversity, and we were sort of disheartened that in most sales teams around the globe, women are underrepresented. So, that's when we decided that we need to team up with women sales leaders to showcase to the world that women can be great sales leaders. And I think, Andrea, I have personally I worked under other women sales leaders, and they're absolutely amazing. And I think they also bring in a different perspective to solve the complex problems that sales teams normally face. So we're going to be actually hosting a bunch of other webinars, so stay tuned for that. Uh, and I think going forward, with regards to this webinar, it's all about the way you overcome rejection and how not to be afraid of it. I think I couldn't have personally gotten a better person to speak about the topic because Andrea has been doing this for the past 15 years. So she founded the Courage Crafters about when she was 24 years old, and she's been speaking to sales reps on how to really change their view about rejection and actually step up to the occasion. In addition to that, she's also written a book called Go for No, and it's among the top sales books to read on Amazon. And since she's been teaching for such a long time about these tactics, it's become quite well known around the globe. And I think it's the go-to resource for anything to do with this topic. In addition to that, she's also one of the top 25 sales influencers as rated by HubSpot and Salesforce. And she's also among the top 65 businesswomen around the world. So I think thanks a lot, Andrea, again for coming with us today. We're really looking forward to this webinar. We've got a lot of interest from our audience as well. So we're really hoping for a great one today.
Thank you.
And so yeah, I'm just digging in deep into the agenda. So for people who are new, I'll be giving a couple of minute brief on Vtiger. After that, Andrea is going to speak about the crux of the webinar, and then we'll have a quick Q&A session. Now there's a bonus at the end. There's a $150 discount code for people who want to actually learn more about how they can actually overcome the fear of rejection in sales. So Andrea is going to speak a lot about it, and I think you guys will have to hold on till the end to get your hands on this. Other than that, so yeah, this is a brief on Vtiger, and I just want to take a couple of minutes to speak about why we're actually doing this. So every webinar we have newer audience coming in, so it's for them. So if you've actually seen this before, I apologize for bugging you with the same message again and again, but please just hold on for a couple of minutes. So Vtiger has been adding value to the sales community since 2004. That's when it was founded. We launched the open source CRM back in the day, and we've had phenomenal success with that. We've got about 5 million downloads, and it's pretty much safe to say that we are among the top in the world. And later, with the cloud revolution coming in, we realized that we'll be able to add much more value through continuous updates. That's when we launched the cloud version. That was in 2010. And ever since then, we've been growing. We've got around 3 offices globally. We're opening a new one in Austin, Texas. That should probably happen by end of August or September. And we've got about 300,000 happy users. So I think I'd just like to thank everybody for supporting us in this journey. I really appreciate all the support. And in addition to that, we've also won quite a few awards by Gartner, G2 Crowd. We were recently named as a leader in the summer reports by G2 Crowd. And we also happen to be recognized as a niche player in the Magic Quadrant for Salesforce Automation by Gartner. So thanks again for all the support. I think we're ready to go. I think, Andrea, I'm just handing over the mic to you so that you can take care of the crux of the entire webinar.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. I need to share my screen here. Yes, and there we go. All right. So thank you so much, Shiva. It's great to be with you today, and I am excited to be sharing about this message of overcoming fear of failure and rejection. It doesn't matter what you sell, what product, what service, and I have been doing this for so long, and this is a global issue, right? It is around the world. It doesn't matter because we all are humans, and we are biologically wired to want to be accepted by other people, and we don't want to hear the word no. We don't want to be rejected, and it is a very common issue, and that's why I think this webinar is so incredibly powerful. Also, because rejection is such an issue, oftentimes what happens is we lose opportunities, we don't follow through on things, we don't follow up, and so I think if you can combine having a great system like Vtiger, which by the way is a super cool name, I don't know if everyone else agrees with that, I sure think it's super cool, and you combine that with this philosophy that I'm going to teach all of you today, I think you can really be unstoppable. And so the question is it possible to become someone who doesn't fear rejection though? That's really an important question, because, you know, I talk to a lot of people, and oftentimes I hear people say they kind of get discouraged and they think, you know, I'm never going to get over it, or I'm never going to be a top seller. I'm never going to be a top salesperson because I can't get over my fear of rejection. It's going to be with me forever. And I am telling you that yes, you can. You might not be one of these people that I meet every now and then who comes up and says, I have no fear of the word no, rejection doesn't bother me, I don't mind. You may not necessarily move all the way over there, but can you be someone whose effectiveness is really improved and who doesn't get so discouraged? Absolutely. But first you have to believe this to be true. And that is why I bring this up to kind of kick us off, is to ask the question, is it possible? Is it possible for you? And I'm telling you absolutely, because I'm going to teach some things to you today that are probably very different from things that you've heard in the past. You know, there's a lot of sales training out there, and rejection is a part of sales, and a lot of people just kind of, they say, yes, there's rejection, just get over it, right? Well, we're going to look at that in a counterintuitive way. I want to take a negative reality that is in the world of sales and spin it in a positive mindset so that you can keep that persistence going, use the Vtiger system effectively, and explode your business. So here are some signs, though, that rejection is affecting you. One, you only call or reach out to people who you think will say yes, right? We all do that. We presume, and we try to figure out, well, who's going to say yes, who's going to say no, because I don't want to hear a no. You get depressed when you get a no, and you slow down or you stop your activity. You procrastinate and you do everything else, right, except make those sales calls. You get anxious or you get nervous when selling. You think that people are going to get upset with you, they're going to get annoyed with you, especially maybe if you're following up. So you got a no, or they haven't responded to you, so you're calling them again, you're writing them again, and now you're getting really nervous, right? Because you think, oh, I'm going to be pushy. And by the way, we do not believe in being pushy or aggressive as far as sales goes. So don't worry, that's another fear. Don't worry, that is not what I am suggesting here. So that's the good news if you're concerned about that I'm going to turn you into an aggressive salesperson. No. You avoid situations where you might fail, right? You don't want to do that. You worry, again, that you think someone will think you're too pushy, and you're just not having fun. And if you're not having fun, then you get discouraged and you feel like giving up. So all of these are really powerful signs that rejection is affecting you. Of all of our research that we have done at goforno.com, the primary restraining force that keeps people back from reaching their full potential is fear. I want to show some interesting statistics with all of you. We did a survey on our website a few years ago, salespeople and sales managers, and we asked this question: what's the biggest fear on the part of a salesperson? And 51% said that, the customer would say no and reject them. 22% said upsetting somebody by coming across pushy or aggressive. 18% said not making the sale or reaching their goals. Only 9% said they were concerned that the product was right for the customer. Very interesting. We also asked, what's the number one quality of a great salesperson? 38% said the willingness to face rejection. We also had people answer, 22% said close the sale, 18% said communication and negotiation, all important. Only 5% said product knowledge. Again, so for everyone watching, again, whatever you're selling, whether it's a software system, whether it's products or services, we all have to have knowledge of our product, but really that willingness to face rejection is huge. So today on the webinar, I'm going to cover 5 keys for overcoming fear of failure and rejection in sales. And the first one is that you have to change what you think about failure. You have to change your mindset. We've all been taught and programmed that failure is bad, but I want you to think about this. Imagine a baby first learning to walk, right? Topples over. This baby topples over and says, that's it. I'm done. I've hit my head on the coffee table for the last time. I'm going to lay here and I'm going to let them take care of me forever. My parents can just take care of me. And I think some millennials might be doing that actually today, but we won't go there. And I apologize, Shiva, you might be a millennial. I'm not sure. But so what happens is we don't, of course we don't operate like that. We have to embrace failure. We have to have that tenacity that we had as a kid and understand that failure is a part of the process. So I want to show an interesting model to you. This is a model that is in the book Go for No, and it's very important because it's a model for you, for your sales career and for your business. And in the old model, you are in the middle. Failure, rejection, hearing the word no is on one side, and success and the yeses is on the other. And you've been taught and trained to avoid the no's, avoid the failure, and seek the success and seek the yeses. The new model is where you are actually over here. The failure, rejection, hearing those no's is in the middle. And the success that you are seeking is on the other side of the process. How do you deal with that? Well, what you do is you actually, instead of avoiding no, you do what we suggest, which is to go for no. To intentionally go out of your way to hear no's more often, to instead of going into your Vtiger system, you go into your CRM, you pull somebody's name up and you say, oh, they're just going to tell me no. I'm not going to call on them, or I'm not going to send them another email, or I'll just pull them out of the system altogether. Instead of doing that, you say, no, I'm going to go for it again. And then when you do that, what you find are oftentimes the yeses are there rather than you just telling yourself no, if that makes sense. So it really is a shifting of how you feel about failure and rejection. And here's the thing, there's a distinct connection between yes and no in sales. And I'm sure you all have experienced this, where you've maybe talked to somebody that you were convinced that this person was going to tell you no. You thought for sure that they weren't going to buy. And then lo and behold, they ended up saying yes, right? That happens sometimes. And sometimes you have the person who you think is going to say yes, absolutely, they're going to say yes. And then they say no, and they don't buy. And you say, I don't understand. I thought they'd say yes. And so we never know. What we do know is that yes and no are on the opposite sides of the same coin. They are inextricably linked. And when you avoid hearing the word no, you also avoid hearing the word yes. Because if you are not hearing enough no's, then you are not going to hear enough yeses. And that is why changing your mental model of that failure and success, and understanding that the no's and that rejection is part of the process is so key. And then really understanding the real connection between yes and no. And I want to tell you a little story also in the Go for No book. And this is something that happened to my business partner, Richard, my co-author, and we share this on stages all over the world, was working in a menswear store. He thought they were going to fire him. He was very nervous. In fact, his sales were terrible. And he had only been working there for about 2 months. And one day, and he's selling suits, right? He's selling men's clothing for a living. That's what he's doing. So one day, the district manager, a gentleman by the name of Harold, is scheduled to come in, visit the store, and see what's going on. And Richard is thinking that this is his opportunity to impress Harold and hopefully not get fired, because it's the last thing that can happen to him. He just moved out to Los Angeles. He's living with his friend. He can't get fired. So Harold comes into the store on this particular day, and they have breakfast, and everybody is there, all the salespeople, and they open the store for that day. And in walks a very well-dressed gentleman who says, "I need to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing." And Richard is the salesman who gets to take care of this man. And so he proceeds to have this great sale. He sells this man a suit and a sport coat and shirts and ties and slacks and belt and all of these things. And it comes to $1,100. And Richard, he rings the man up, the man pays, he walks him out of the store, and now he's thinking he's done this fabulous job. He's waiting for Harold to come and congratulate him, and now he's thinking, I'm not going to get fired because this was so great, I did such a great job, right? And Harold comes over, and Harold doesn't say anything right away, and then finally Richard says to him, he says, that was a great sale, right? And Harold said, yeah, it was a good sale, but do you mind if I ask you a question? And Richard said, sure, what is it? And Harold said, out of curiosity, what did that customer say no to? And Richard's like, what did he say no to? You watched that sale, right? He bought a suit and he bought all these things. I sold him all of these things. What do you mean, what did he say no to? And then Harold said, yeah, what did that customer say no to? And Richard had to get honest and say, gosh, Harold, that customer didn't say no to anything. Everything I showed that man, he purchased. And then Harold asked him the really important question. He said, then how did you know he was done? And in that moment, Richard knew that he was the one who stopped that sale, that he was selling this man all of these things. The man never said no, but he had hit his own mental spending limit, and he wrapped up the sale and sent the customer on his way. And Harold told Richard, he said, I watched you sell, and you're not half bad. You're pretty good, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. If you could just learn to get over that, I think you could be one of the great ones. And he went home that night, 2 letters from greatness, which are N-O. It's not yes, it's actually N-O. It's about failing your way to success. Had he showed more products, in this case, more merchandise to this customer, that customer would have purchased more. And he may have heard some no's, but he would have gotten more yeses. From then, Richard went on to become an award-winning salesperson because he changed his mindset. And when I heard that story many, many years ago, I actually thought I was a great salesperson, a superstar salesperson, but I had to be honest as well and realize that I didn't like hearing the word no, and I avoided it as well. And when I switched that, everything in my career changed. And I use it today, even in my own business, because even today I have to go out and prospect and hear the word no myself. So that is the key, that is the secret. In order to be more successful, you have to be willing to hear no more often. When average people hear no, they think the process is over. When top performers hear no, they think things are just getting started. You've got to hang in there through the no's. So step number 3, change how you respond to no. Now we've talked about this. We've talked about the response. When when Richard was out there selling, he never heard a no. So now when you get one, the question really is, what do you do? What do you say to yourself in your mind? When you hear the word no, what does that no mean to you? See, we all tend to have this dialogue that goes on. We hear a no and we think, oh, that's terrible. I'm doing bad. I'm doing awful. I'm not going to succeed. And then also, how do you respond internally to a no? What do you do? And this is really important. And I asked this question when we started today. I said, signs that rejection is affecting you. You get a lot of rejection, you stop for the day or you stop for the week. So how you respond to no is very critical. And you are in control of your emotional reaction to no. You are in control of your response. So instead of seeing no as the end, instead of seeing no that you're not on the right path, that things aren't working out, you have to see it in a positive light. So here's what it looks like. So the event, and this is actually from a man named Jack Canfield, by the way. I want to give him credit for this. It's called E plus R equals O. The event is you hear a no. Your response, you choose to see no as positive. You choose to see no as part of the path, right? It's part of the process of getting to those yeses. And then you have your outcome. When you hear that no and you respond positively, a couple things happen. One, you change your own emotional reaction. And so instead of getting depressed, instead of getting deflated, you stick to your process. You don't give up for the day. You don't stop. And then what happens is you tend to get better results. You tend to have a better outcome. You can't let no's or rejection rule your sales career. And also, there's a tendency to look for the yeses and the no's to validate yourself, validate your product, validate what you are doing as a salesperson, that you are either good if you get a yes or you're bad if you get a no. In actuality, it has nothing to do with you. But controlling your response to hearing no gets you off of this emotional roller coaster. And this is something that a lot of salespeople, myself included, I've done it many, many times. You put yourself on the yes-no emotional roller coaster. So you get a yes, you get a couple of yeses, you go up, up, up the roller coaster because you're having fun, right? It's a good thing. You get a no, it's back down the roller coaster. And if you've ever been on a roller coaster, I don't know how many of you have. I don't particularly like them. I live in Orlando where Disney is here, and I like all the kiddie rides that are the safe, easy, non-scary kiddie rides. But a lot of people like roller coasters. However, when you go on a roller coaster, it only lasts for about 2 minutes. And when you get off of that roller coaster, what happens? How do you feel? You feel exhausted, right? So you can feel exhilarating, but you're kind of exhausted. If you put yourself on this roller coaster day in and day out as a salesperson, pretty soon it gets exhausting. And so to be really effective, you don't need to berate yourself or feel bad about the no's. You don't need to over celebrate the yeses. Your goal is to remain as emotionally on an even keel as possible, really focusing on getting into action and making those calls and making those contacts. In other words, going for no more often. And then whatever those answers are, whether it's a yes, whether it's a no, maybe it's lots of yeses, maybe it's a few no's, and then one day it's a lot of no's and no yeses, but it's getting on an even keel. And that is critically important. Finally,
I just want to step in and say, I think yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, regarding the emotional roller coaster, I think in addition to sales guys, you see that in a lot of other careers as well, especially for entrepreneurs who are just trying to start off. There's such an emotional roller coaster because on one day you might have won the biggest customer, and then the next day another big company or competitor might launch a product very similar to yours. So
yes.
And I've been through that journey. I was an entrepreneur myself, and I used to have such ecstatic moments, and the next moment I feel like crying or throwing up. That's what I feel. Every time I get on a roller coaster, I feel like throwing up after that. So it's a little scary for me. But I think, yeah, in addition to sales, I think a lot of other professionals go through that at different parts of their career.
Absolutely. And Shiva, what a great reminder to me. I'm going to use the throwing up thing for sure, because that is true. That is true. And I think you get a lot of no's and in your business, and you feel like throwing up because you say, how many can I deal with? So thank you for adding that on. So true. Number 4 is have a plan for moving forward. I want you to pretend like somebody is giving you this no, and it's a gift. And like any good gift, you say, well, what am I going to do? Where am I going to put it? I've got to have a plan for this. And here's fundamentally the key of your plan. You're going to respond internally positively and externally, but you have to have a plan. And so when you get those no's, if you are talking to qualified prospects, right, people that could use your product or service or have a need for it, you really want to have that way to that next step. And this is so important. This goes perfectly with the Vtiger system, because when you have that plan in place, that's what you want to be inputting into your system in terms of what do you say next? Like, for example, my favorite line is, oh, okay, so you're not interested now. Do you mind if I check back with you in 3 months to see if anything has changed? That's the type of information that needs to go in your system. You need to be aware of that, but you need to make sure that you're following through on those next steps, not just getting a no and saying, okay, click, thank you, and now you never talk to this qualified prospect again. Things change for people, circumstances change. I'm sure that there are many people who've been on other CRMs who've signed up with Vtiger because for one reason or another, they were unhappy with their system and they make a change. Now they went out and said, well, no one who has a CRM will ever come to us. Well, that would be crazy, right? And the same goes for you and your products and services. So it is that persistence and that follow-up is so key. Make sure that you have that response down and that plan of what do I say when I get a no? What's the next step with this prospect or this customer? Always keeping in mind that you respond positively in that moment. And then finally, connect, and this is really a big one too, because I remember I told all of you, you don't have to be pushy, you don't have to be aggressive, you don't have to, you don't want to be one of those salesy salespeople that we all dread. However, you do need to be positively persistent. Persistence is very, very big. The reason for that, the because of that, is that a lot of times people aren't ready to change. They're not ready to buy. They're not sure who you are, so they need to hear from you multiple times. You need to be creating value for them so that they finally decide. But the mindset behind that is really understanding that whatever it is you're selling, whatever solution, whatever problem you're solving, even if you're selling a bottle of water to somebody who's thirsty, you are solving a problem in that moment. You are doing them a service. So connecting what you do from a sales standpoint as a service that you are providing. In other words, you're not just selling somebody, and I think a lot of salespeople can start thinking of it as the customer loses and I win when we make a sale. No, when you make a sale, the customer wins because they are now getting a problem solved. They are getting a new shirt, they're getting a new service, they're getting a solution that you brought to them, and that is a win-win. And you are also winning because you are getting your products and services out into the world to help people. That mindset is very powerful, because as you go out now and you hear more no's, and I encourage you to do that, and I encourage you to set a no goal for how many no's you're going to hear on a given day or week, which is a really fun thing to do. As you hear those no's, remember that it's not just about, oh, I'm just selling things and there's no connection, there's no greater why to this. It's you are providing a service, but you have to stay positively persistent in order to provide that service and have people really excited to do business with you. You've got to be around. And so like I said earlier, those average salespeople hear the word no, they think, oh, it's done, it's over. No, no, top performing salespeople hear no, and they think the process is just getting started. So don't let yourself give up too quickly and too soon. One of my other favorite quotes, by the way, is if everybody said yes, they wouldn't need to pay you very well. So you really get paid for the no's, not the yeses. That's what we do as salespeople. If yeses were easy, they wouldn't need salespeople. So we get paid just as much for the no's as we do for the yeses, because what it comes down to is our activity. It's not just about the yeses that we get paid for, it's we get paid for activity, which means telling our story, showing people our products and services, and then the answer is just the answer. That's all it is, right? The money that you create, the value that you create for your company or for yourself is by going out there and telling your story. You want to do that more. You want to do that more. And in those moments, those go for no moments, you have the opportunity to ask, either get a no, get a yes, and then remember to respond positively. All right, so Shiva, questions?
Well, I think one of the questions that I have is mainly around, because I've done this a lot before, number of follow-ups that you basically need to do to actually get a response. There's a really good quote that I follow in life. I think this is for everything. You know, when I hunt for a customer, it could be my next job, and it could be an influencer when I reached out to you. So it's the quote that I go by is fortune is in the follow-up. So I've never seen anybody cracking the biggest deal on the very first email. It's always the third or the fourth, or the fourth phone call or the fifth one. So Andrea, when do you think we should stop this? Because sometimes it also comes across as pushy. When do you know that, hey, this is the line, I'm not going to cross this?
Yes, such a great question, and there is a line, and the issue and the problem is that it's different for everybody, right? Because you never know. The line for one person might be very upset, right, initially when you call, and then other people, they just don't mind. The issue is that most salespeople give up way too soon. That's probably the biggest thing that I would say to that. And my advice is always to get permission. That's the key word, is to get permission. And so if you are sending, say, an email because somebody subscribed or whatever, and you're following up with emails, maybe through a drip campaign of some kind. Obviously, if they unsubscribe, well, that's a no. Or if they ask you, hey, take me off your list, that's fine too. If you get permission and you talk to them and they say, you say, hey, I just wanted to let you know we've had some upgrades to our system. It does this and this now. And I wanted to let you know, and see if you maybe were ready to take a look or whatever. And if they aren't interested at that point, but they still say, sure, call me back later, then you get their permission, right? So it's all about getting permission at every step. And if they're still interested in hearing from you and you have their permission, then the answer is you persist for as long as you possibly can. Because if you are going to be in business and this person is a qualified prospect and you believe that you can really help them and solve their problem, then you should stick with it.
That's nice. I think in addition to that, there's a question from Wendy. So she's asking, how do you get past the gatekeeper? I think it's a great question, because a lot of times you probably can't even get through to the decision maker. So how do you get past?
Yeah. Well, that is a great question. And I would advise to always, first of all, with Go for No, and with really anything in sales, you have to be creative, right? You have to get creative and ask good, smart questions of that gatekeeper, and make them, and this is advice that I've heard over the years too, is really make them an ally. So it's saying things like, if first of all, letting them know that you're interested in their help, and that you're not trying to sneak around them. I think, and I've heard some horror stories of people who were trying to sneak around the gatekeeper, and then it usually backfires, right? So you want to enroll them in whatever it is you're doing by explaining who you are, why you're calling, and how, and asking them go for no questions like, would it be crazy if I asked you if I could set up a phone meeting with, you know, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect? And then if she says, yes, that would be crazy, then say, well, can you tell me any other way that I could get this proposal in front of this person or have a meeting or whatever? Guys, it's really about taking chances and taking risks with that gatekeeper and being creative. And also really staying persistent, because if you call that gatekeeper one time, you've got to stay persistent with them. They have to know that you're probably not going away, that it's in their best interest to help you and either get you through to the next level or somehow work something to where you can get your message in front of that decision maker.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think it does, again, boils down to asking permission and building trust. And I think I've got another question, which is from the Q&A. Now, a lot of times, you know, we speak to customers. Customers might be saying yes, but sometimes your bosses might be saying no to a couple of things. It could be for discount approvals, or it could be, you know, you want to change a territory and, you know, you think the product is not a good fit. So how do you deal with that, Andrea?
How do you deal with how do you deal with, so the customer is saying yes, but the boss is saying no?
Yes, especially on discounts and approvals, or probably the customer has an important request, and that's a deal breaker for the customer. So,
well, yeah. So here's an interesting thing about that, and when you are going for no, and when you are selling in general, sometimes it's easy to, and I've been guilty of this, to not ask questions that you think will lose you the sale, right? So you want to just, like you say, I don't want to know that there's another decision maker. I just want to deal with this person and hope, and I'm wishing and hoping that they're going to say yes, and that they're the final decision maker, and that it's smooth sailing. And then you find out, oh no, there's a committee, right? Or you find out there's a boss, and you find out, oh no, they don't want to pay that. They need a discount. And so, getting all of those questions answered and on the table, in other words, going for those no's early, is the key, so that you can deal with them then. So asking, coming up with a series of questions while you're fact finding and saying, okay, great. Well, are you the person who makes the decision on this, or you know, are there other people involved? And if so, can we get them on the phone? Can we have a meeting with them? In that moment, you're risking losing the deal, because maybe that person will say, yeah, there is, and now this is getting too complicated or whatever. So a lot of salespeople, they don't do that, and then they have to clean up a lot of things on the end, right? There's all kinds of roadblocks that come up later. So my advice is try to get all of that handled in the beginning, so that you can get as much buy-in as possible, so that those things don't happen in the end. And oftentimes that might become a roadblock, but it's better to get it done early than later.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And what if you're getting a lot of no's and very few yeses in between? How do you keep yourself motivated? And how do you really work on yourself to get more yeses?
Yes. So a couple things, a couple pieces of advice on this. I always say be creative. Be creative in terms of, you know, analyzing your approach, and pay attention to your methodology. So if you're trying the same pitch, let's say, or the same type of opening, if you're making phone calls, or if you're sending LinkedIn notes and no one's responding to you, then you have to say, okay, it's time to change it up. Now, it doesn't work if you're not going out and prospecting enough. You don't get enough data. You don't know if this is working or that's working, because you can pick up the phone and have one great phone call, and then you'd say, oh wow, that went so well. I'm 1 for 1. This is great. I'm 100% closer. Well, no. And so you have to pay attention to what's working and change things up. That's a big part of taking, if you're getting a lot of no's and you say, I'm getting too many, this doesn't feel statistically right. And then that's how you can get more yeses. Also backing up even further and saying, am I really talking to people who are qualified for what I'm offering, or am I just out there and I'm talking about this product or this service, and these people have no interest in it. I don't even know what they do. I don't know who they are. That's why that pre-research and really understanding who your target qualified prospects are. And I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, since I am a trainer and a speaker, if I call a company and I say, hey, do you guys hire speakers? And they say no. I mean, that's a great qualifying question, because I can say, okay, terrific, thank you, bye. I'm not going to say I'm not going to stay on the phone and say, well, all right, now hang on, okay, you don't now, but let me talk you into hiring a speaker. I don't want to spend my time doing that. Now, some speakers maybe they want to convince this person they should be brought in. I don't want to do that. And it's the same thing. It's making sure that you're qualifying or disqualifying in really a way, so that if the person says, yes, we do, now it's like, okay, I'm moving down the line, right? And paying attention to that process is a big way that you can start turning more no's into yeses.
Well, I think that's a splendid answer. I think we do that at Vtiger as well. So usually when somebody signs up for a trial access, we send them a bunch of emails, and we monitor how they're opening it and if they're actually responding and clicking through. And every time somebody doesn't open or somebody doesn't respond or clicks through, that's a no for us. So we really look at the stats, and we actually collect enough data, and then we make iterative changes to get as many yeses as possible. So I think yes, I think this can be implemented across different functions in the organization as well.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really how to do it. And so, and I'm sure you guys have some pretty robust systems. Some of us, you do it experientially, and you do it, you make sure that you're paying attention to your own data, right?
That makes sense. I think, yes, I think we're about it, Andrea. We've got all the questions covered. So I'm quite curious about it, and I know that I love reading, but I don't like reading big books. And I know that Go for No is quite brief as well. It's about 60 to 70 pages, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
So if yes, and I think with rejection and overcoming fear of failure, I think it's with every single field. It's not just with sales. It's at every walk of life. You get rejected, and you always need to bounce back. So I think the lessons that you covered today, and I'm sure that the other collateral that you have online is really going to help us understand rejection better and change the way we view it. So if I were to actually read more and continue, so what would you recommend for continuous reading right now?
So yeah, I would recommend, so reading Go for No for sure. And then as we talked about, we have our online course, which is quite powerful, and it really digs into all of the Go for No concepts for sure.
That's awesome. So guys, we'll be shooting you an email right after this. Now let me just share my screen just so that you guys have the discount code. Yep, just give me a second. Yeah. Andrea, can you see my screen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So guys, as continuous reading, you can go to the course. It's quite interactive. It's very engaging. It's not all audio. It's got video as well. So it's quite, it's not going to get you bored. And Andrea is going to do a really good job with the presentation of it. So you can go to the URL that you see on the screen and type in Vtiger at checkout and get $150 off. In addition to that, you can head on to Amazon and also search for Go for No. You'll probably get a book. You can read on a Kindle or get a paperback version, and that's probably one way to get started. And
definitely.
Yeah, that's nice. And you can also reach out to Andrea. She's really open. I sent her a cold email. I was going for no, and she actually came back with a yes. So you can reach out to her. She's very receptive. You can reach out to her on Twitter, on LinkedIn. I think, is that it? And over email as well.
Yes.
She's quite receptive. And yeah, and for folks who haven't tried Vtiger out, you can see the URL. We've got a 15-day free trial. You can go and log in, check it out for yourself. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. We're going to be doing a lot of these webinars over the next couple of months. And so some exciting topics we're going to be speaking about. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, Andrea, I think we've got one more question. Let me try and get that.
Oh, very good. Well, and I wanted to thank you, Shiva, because it's very important to me to be, and I'm honored to be part of the Women in Sales initiative that you guys have set up. And I think that's wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this is a really interesting question from Mary. And I think a lot of sales guys have gone through this. I personally have. It's about how many times should you follow up with a customer after they've committed to a sale, but they've just gone cold turkey on you. They're really not responding. How would you
Right.
deal with that situation?
Yeah, and that does happen all the time, right? You follow up with, you have a conversation, and then they disappear. So you follow up right away, and I would say I've seen different numbers, I've seen different statistics. A friend of mine, Colleen Francis, who's an amazing sales trainer, she'll say 5 to 7 times minimum, very quickly in the first few days, couple weeks. And then at some point, what you have to do is you kind of have to have a breakup email, and this is or phone call, and this is one of these things where you tell them they are clearly you've followed up, you've reached out, etc. They're not interested. You're going to assume they're not interested, or they have so much on their plate right now that you're not going to bother them again. And then you say, so they won't be hearing from you. If by any chance you're mistaken, please give me a call as soon as possible and give your number. And a lot of times that will give people off the dime, because they'll say, wow, I pushed this person too far. I really did let this go, and I do need to do this. And so I'm going to go ahead and do this now. Other people won't, but now you can put them on your drip marketing campaign. Don't remove them entirely, even though you say, you won't hear from me again, but maybe it's one of these things where you check back with them in 4 months, 6 months, you put them in the system that way. But yeah, I think it's smart to have kind of that you're not going to hear from me again, but if you do want to go forward, let me know as quickly as possible. Otherwise, you won't hear from me again. That actually works.
And in addition to that, I think that's splendid advice. You should also have the breakup. But I think what I've seen also work is giving them a limited period discount, creating a fear of missing out. So you can tell them that, hey, listen, the discount I gave you is probably active for the next week. So if you don't respond and claim it, you're going to lose it. So I think internally they'll also want to build a better impression about themselves in their own companies, that they got a great tool for a good discount. And if they don't respond, they're afraid that they might miss out on the deal. That's one way to actually get them to respond.
It absolutely is, because a lot of people, if they have that discount, if you really want that customer, it depends on your philosophy on discounts, but if you really want that customer, and you know that this is a solution for them and they're not changing just because they fear it, it's a good way to get them over their fear.
Awesome. I think, yeah, we're done here. Thanks a lot,
Okay.
Andrea.
All right,
Yeah.
Shiva.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
And thanks a ton for joining us today, guys. Really appreciate the support. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us and we'll be more than happy to answer. And I think everybody who's registered for the webinar is going to get a recording of it as well. So you can always go back and take a look at this timeless advice. And then, yeah, we're hoping that you have a great year ahead. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.